So earlier this past week, Tesla reported their deliveries for the second quarter, and they announced 384,000 vehicles delivered in the second quarter of this year. And that was a decline of 14% from a year ago, marking the second straight quarterly decline. Now, if we scroll down to the hourly chart, you can see that initially price went down. Let's go down to the 15-minute chart. You can see on the news, price went down on Wednesday when prices opened at 9:30 to catch some bids before moving higher. So from a technical standpoint, you see that you had resistance, which became support. However, the reversal on that day was due to the numbers were better than analysts had anticipated. Now, before we get into the actual chart analysis, let's look at the actual results. So deliveries in the first quarter, again, dropped 13% from a year ago to 336,681 deliveries. Deliveries are the closest approximation of vehicle sales reported by Tesla, but are not precisely defined in the company's shareholder communications. They also don't break out the Model Y from the Model 3 numbers. Now, a Wall Street analyst by the name of Gene Munster, managing partner at Deepwater Asset Management, said the report came 4% above the whisper number in a post on X. He expects the second quarter decline to mark the bottom. Just kind of remember that. Now, Tesla also faces an onslaught of competition, especially from EV makers in China, where their models are newer and more affordable. Nevertheless, in the first quarter, Tesla partly blamed its declining auto sales on customers who had delayed their orders so they could get a refreshed version of the Model Y SUV, which began shipment in March. Now, there's also something going on behind the scenes, and it's been all in the airwaves, and that's the feud between Elon Musk and President Trump. And they were buddies initially during their Doge initiation, but government doesn't want to fix the issues. And so the big beautiful bill increases the debt another $4 trillion, and Elon has an issue with that. All right, now let's get back to the charts. Let's zoom out to the monthly chart, and we have this huge head and shoulder pattern. This serves as resistance, should now serve as support. Just keep that in mind. Now, one thing to note, the price action on Tesla is one of the worst against the Mag 7 stocks. Going back to November, when we found out that Trump was going to be the next president, this was the Trump pivot in which price spiked higher, reaching all-time highs at about that $481 before retracing. Now, we did have a beautiful setup. Again, price nearly filled that gap at about that $220 level. Now, I was expecting a W-type pattern, which is a double bottom, but we got an actual triple bottom. So if I now, you have price now converging and basing, near all the moving averages. The key one is going to be this 200-day in yellow. We want to see price stay above that, because if it does, then price is in a secular bull market. Now, why am I bullish on Tesla? From a technical standpoint, you got the golden cross, and that's where the 50-day, which is in red, crosses over and above the 200-day, which is in yellow. And so look for a first target at the recent highs in this $300 to $360 region, and we should see price test these levels in the coming weeks. Let's zoom out to the weekly chart. Let's clean up this chart a little bit. All right, so where's price heading? Again, I am bullish. The equity markets, Feds are about to cut interest rates, which is going to flood the markets with liquidity. And so prices are going to look for assets further out on the risk curve. You have local resistance at about $355. The next target is going to be this drop, base drop. That is a weekly sellers level. So that becomes the next target at about that $408 level. So $355 first target, 408 second target, and all-time highs at 481. Look for price to break all-time highs before the end of the year.